Welcome back. We're here with Venice Gondolier Sun publisher Bob Vedder. Bob, I wanted to ask you, when we grew up, there was CBS, ABC, and NBC. It was 3 channels on television, and that's where you got your news other than your local newspaper. And now it's just an explosion of places to get your news from. What do you think about television news and the newspaper business? Do you think that it's better now that we have such a broad spectrum, or has some of it been diluted?
Well, it's certainly a lot different. There's so many choices, and you can go find a choice that fits you the best. There's certainly some liberal-leaning choices and some sort of conservative-leaning choices, and I think that's what dictates how some people decide where they're going. Certainly, all of the networks are having the same problems that the newspapers are having. They have the same declines. So are the local television stations. So are all of the media. The radio stations are having the same trouble. A lot of people think this is a newspaper thing going on. It isn't at all. It has a lot.
Media in general.
It has a lot to do with the economy. If you have automotive that isn't able to buy the advertising that they bought before, and you have no construction industry, and you have little real estate businesses way down, and you have want ads is off a major portion. Sure, some because of competition, but mostly because of the job market being gone. I mean, it's amazing what's happening.
Pew Research just came out with a poll that the highest percentage ever of Americans, 63%, say that the news is biased or inaccurate. Just 15, 20 years ago, it was half that. It was about a third. Why do you think so many Americans think that the news that they receive is biased or inaccurate? Is that because of the proliferation of sources, or?
I don't know. I think people don't trust people in general as much.
Okay.
And I think that politically, there's so much politics, and just reporting the politics is enough by itself to taint you with that brush. I think I don't see it as much in the local journalism side. It just isn't as big an issue, but it definitely, you feel it, you sense it.
Let me talk about the editorial page, because a lot of people who read newspapers, if they like your editorial page, they'll like your newspaper. But if they don't like the editorial page, they'll hate or dislike the newspaper. Although I know newspapers go to great lengths to try to keep the news divisions and the editorial divisions separate. Can you talk a little bit about trying to have that wall between news and editorial?
Well, certainly in a weekly newspaper, it's not as great a division as you would have at a daily. At a daily newspaper, boy, you just don't speak to one another. I mean, it's
really.
But in a weekly, it's a lot different. I mean, it's a lot more interaction between the departments and jobs. You have to do 2 or 3 different jobs. Today, my editor was down handling the Sunshine lawsuit case, what normally a reporter would handle, and so it's there isn't quite the division, but nonetheless there is certainly a line that you have to be real careful about your opinion and making sure your opinion is clearly opinion versus your writing of the stories.
From the outside looking in, when I look at the newspaper business, and I looked at it as a business, I always wonder, why did newspapers endorse anybody for political office? Because 50% of your readers are going to be mad at you,
right.
And those are your customers. Do you think it's important for newspapers to endorse? Why do they endorse? Explain it to me.
Well, there's a lot that don't. We happen to be a newspaper that is always endorsed, and with rare exception. Occasionally the decision is too difficult. But we feel that the regular reader does not get an opportunity to sit down with a potential candidate and spend as much time analyzing, talking to them following their campaign, looking at what they've done in the past. There's a lot of research that goes into that. And a lot of them really need some help sorting through that. And so we think it's a help. And actually where it's the biggest help is in the smallest races.
Right.
You may not think that we did as good a job in like public defender races, but certainly we, you know, when you're doing charter reviewer, people just don't get to see them on television. They don't get to know anything about them.
Right.
And it's a way for us to help.
In the nonpartisan races, they don't even know if they're Republican or Democrat.
Right, exactly, for sure.
Well, since you do endorse, what do you look for in a candidate, let's say? What is there sort of a profile that your newspaper, the kind of candidate your newspaper looks for? I know Matt Walsh talked about his newspaper being libertarian and looking for libertarian-leaning people. What do you look for?
Well, I don't think that we categorize anybody, but we look for somebody that's been involved in the process or in the community. In our case, usually it's local elections in the community. We like people that have been, they've wanted to make a difference without just necessarily being a politician. We like to have people that have experience in some way or other. What has been your business experience? What are you going to impact when you get on? Do you have any ideas? Center, like you did in your race, do you have a lot of ideas to make a difference? Some people just have no ideas. They like the way it's run, and you know, and that's not, to us, doesn't cut it. We want somebody that's going to change things and make it better. So that's important. And then whatever other things that might make a difference, how they debate, how they handle themselves on their feet. In a debate, can you handle a tough question or not handle a tough question? Do you say some really stupid things that you're likely to say when you're, you know, when you got elected? So, you know, those are some of the things that we look for.
Okay. Well, let's take our last break, and we'll be back with our final segment with Bob Vedder and our Weasel of the Week.